to Big Blend Radio's Nature Connection show with Lisa and Nancy, publishers of Big Blend magazines, and nature photographer Margot Carrera. Welcome to Big Blend Radio's Nature Connection show. We are here every fourth Friday, and today we're excited to welcome back award-winning author Cheryl Leutjen. She is based in LA and has gone through some hell, as we all know. LA family and friends have been going through over the last few weeks, and it has just been really, really sad and rough to see what is happening. Nancy and I, we travel full time, but LA is our actual birthplace and home. And we've also done a lot of that wildfire stuff. And so our hearts with everyone in LA, they really are there. And what we can do is support everything that we can, whether it is donations, whether it's volunteering, sharing messages like the positive ones on social media of what we can do. We can do a lot of things. So hopefully through this conversation with Cheryl, we'll talk a little bit about that. But she is here to talk about her next book. She first joined us with her book all about Love Earth Now. But you can go get her new book. It came out in the middle of November. It's called Madness on the Brink of Eco-Apocalypse. So this is for all of us who feel like no one's getting it. Like this is so much going on in the world on climate change. And, we've had last year, Nancy and I, as I said, traveling, we went through 4 hurricanes. Things are just getting a little ramped up across the country, and we can't deny that climate is changing. So anyway, I encourage you to go to Cheryl's website, CherylLeutjen.com. That's Leutjen. Also Amazon, that's where her book is. And on Instagram, she's there as Love Earth Now. And she's on a lot of our other podcasts as well. So welcome back, Cheryl. How are you?
Thank you. I'm hanging in there. I am grateful to be able to say that my home is still standing, and I feel actually a bit of survivor's guilt about that. And at the same time, I just keep walking around my house saying, I'm so glad I still have this. I forgot. I mean, it's interesting what you think about when you think about evacuating. You think about, the practical things and the passports and the important documents, and then at the same time, I was stumped to think, what personal item, what would really be worth toting and what's really important. And it's hard to make that decision in the moment. So now that things are calming down, I'm going to have that conversation again with myself. But
well,
in the meantime, I'm very glad to be
here. The whole evacuation thing it's almost also a luxury to be able to have that. In
Yes.
hurricanes, and Nancy and I've been even where we are right now. Last time we were here, the tornado came through. So, it's like you don't always have that notification. I look at Lahaina and Maui, and and even parts of LA in this fire, people were running, in Malibu where it started, were running and passing the Palisades, people are running to the beach because they had no way. And so the evacuation part, we were very lucky when we went through it, and we went through a year and a half, 7 major real evacuations. And we basically got to the point of we kept fixing our evacuation things. And we were in the Cedar Fire. That was the last big one. And it took out a lot of our community. And at that point, we had dial-up internet. So moving computers was kind of like not the most important thing, but we did. It was a tower. And we had file cabinets. And Nancy, my mom, is a wildlife artist, and we're trying to take the art animals first. And like what you're saying, it's this, what do we do? And so I think going with your book too, right now, I feel like you're going into apocalypse, and a lot of us are looking at what's happening, around the world now. And I always want to just say, this is one of the things we can do is look at what is important to us and have a bag of, if you need to go for whatever reason, politically or climate wise, have that bag. Does that make sense to you with what you've just written?
Oh, absolutely. I mean, it's interesting that I gave everyone in my family go bags for Christmas. I mean, we had some
No
supplies here and
way.
there, but I did. I gave us each one, this is your bag, and this is your things, the basic things, add what you want. And so it's certainly something that's always on my mind. And it's also one of those things you kind of want to put off because you don't really want to think about the reality of it. But having that, this is what I always do. If I set myself a deadline, like it's Christmas, get it done, then
Mm.
that works well for me. So
How are you feeling on some of the, your background as an environmental attorney, also geologist, looking at what is going on with the actual planet itself? And I mean, attorney and geologist, that's two separate things, but at the same time, that was this understanding of what is right and wrong, right? And understanding earth and nature. How are you feeling on the topography side of the land, the actual land itself? How are you feeling?
I am not entirely sure what you mean by topography
Well,
side,
the
but
actual like landscape of it, like what like the heat is hotter, like these fires are fueled and they're hotter. Like this LA fire is a little different than what happened in the Sequoias, a couple of
mhm,
years ago, and the Sequoias really burned faster and hotter, and we're in danger of losing these, these trees only grow naturally in the Sierras now, the giant Sequoias. But
mhm,
when this fire just happened, it's also fueled by obviously water issues, heat, Santa Ana winds, everything, but we're looking at the topography being made up of human houses and things like that versus the natural side. But both fires, there's more than one fire, obviously, but the both incidences, major incidences, seem to be going hotter. And as a
yes.
geologist, understanding the natural order of things, are you feeling that that is we're in trouble now, like whether it's neighborhoods or nature?
Right. It's definitely a concern. A lot of the fires, the homes that did burn, I mean, they are in neighborhoods that are more adjacent to the mountains and the natural areas than, the hardscape of the center city. And so that is still a factor. And the Santa Ana winds, sure, they're a natural occurrence. However, this scenario is not natural in the sense of we got so much more rain the past two seasons, well above, hundreds and 200% of normal in the last two seasons, which means more growth. And then absolutely no rain in this season, which means everything dries out and is just ready to be
Mm.
kindling. And then the Santa Ana winds being much more extreme. I think that's the thing that makes climate change difficult to understand is that yes, its natural patterns are still happening to a certain extent. They're just being amplified and ramped up and moved into areas that I've never seen this, like the hurricanes in Western North Carolina
North
and
Carolina, Georgia,
Georgia.
Florida, South
Right,
Carolina. Yeah, it's Tennessee. Yeah,
right,
Virginia.
right. And people say, "Well, you should know hurricanes happen, fires happen. You should be ready." And yet, there's no way to be ready for something that's so amplified. It's
Well,
just
North
outside of our
Carolina,
experience.
Hurricane Helene, you're
Yeah.
living in a place. I have friends that moved from Houston going through so many hurricanes that said this is the safe spot. And
Hmm. Yeah.
they work in real estate and that they do all those demographics,
Right.
and Asheville, North Carolina is not on the map for hurricanes. The
No.
coast, but so
Sure.
this is where we're talking about how it's changing.
Right. And I'm
Mm.
not a climate scientist. I don't pretend to be.
Yeah,
But
geology,
it is
yes.
it is a big. Also true that the jet stream is changing. What was the stable patterns that we've known in the past are no longer, and so that's why these things are coming into different areas and different intensities and and frankly, it's been happening over time. It's just that, and this is part of the one of the chapters in my book is that our human brains are really through evolution, they prioritize things that are happening immediately. That when the fire's barreling down your street, you don't stop to question, what do I do about this? And yet something that's happening over decades, it's harder for us to get our minds wrapped around. It's harder for
Mm.
us to prioritize because there's always something that's immediate. The rent has to be paid and the car needs to go into the shop right now. And yet at the same time, these are the big threats that we are not dealing with because they're happening on a longer, at least historically, a slower pace. They don't get our immediate attention. And it's harder because, especially with the way our government is set up, we reelect people every 2, 4, 6 years. And so it's hard to have this long-term plan for something like that when we're constantly reorienting
Yeah.
priorities
All
in even elected offices. And
the climate change, meetings that have been happening internationally. I mean, sometimes the leaders show up, and then the very last one, the main leaders didn't show up, and the islands were there. The representatives of the islands were like, "Hey, you guys, you're doing it to us.
yeah,
You need to pay up." And so the big leaders are like, "We ain't showing up because they're going to ask us for money." So it's kind of there's a when you follow what's going on with climate change, which is happening everywhere, and you look politically, there's all kinds of things everyone's upset about, immigration policies and everything. I'm not saying this to get political or pick sides. Um, I'm going, there's, I keep reminding everybody, I have friends on all sides, and we're very independent, Nancy and I.
yes.
I just remind everybody, we're all going to be immigrants again. Just now, because we're going to have to keep moving. I mean, if you look at,
Mhm.
Altadena, everybody having to move.
Right.
Yeah, you know, um, so we kind of have to look at that. And as parents, what's going on with climate change has got to be scary.
I
The
mean,
worst.
that's why I'm in this, to be honest, is because my kids are now just reaching their adulting years. And, what are we handing over to them? That just breaks my heart. So that's what keeps me in it because, frankly, I get it. The news is so bad that I am tempted to tune it out myself. And I have to keep, and it is, let me say this, it is important. Mental health is very important. It is important to take breaks, and I have a plan for how much bad news I want to read in a day, and then what my self-care plan is, and how
But this
I'm
is
going
great. But look how you're doing
to,
this. This is so good because a lot of us just roll by it, what's going on. So
because
this is
otherwise
good.
it's too much and I have to tune it out. And so how do I keep myself upright and working? I have to make a real plan for that. Because as you said, it is because I'm concerned about what world we're handing over to our kids and what the unpredictability that they are going to have. And that's just going to be a factor of their grown lives.
Mhm. And people do have more children, you know,
Mhm.
your kid's going to have kids, and there has been less um children in the world compared to historically. We're reproducing a little bit less than what we used to, which in some ways is a good thing, but that's in environmentally speaking. But we're not going to stop being humans, and nor should we. It's about responsibility. So with Love Earth Now, you know, you were putting out a siren call of, hey, everybody, please care, and this is why. And then
Mhm.
and I think this is what's so hard about environmentalism is people get like, you want to bang the pots and pans and go, yo, this, if we don't do something now, and then people go, oh, and then they don't move on it, and then
Mhm.
they get pissy, pardon my word, pissy, but it's true, about the pots and pans. And then environmental organizations at one point had to stop being alarmist, if you will. But the alarmist, it is true, right? So we really do have this, and I think every human being wants, just as you do, wants their family to be okay. They want clean water, clean air. We want the forest and the trees, and to be able to see deer, and we want to be able to see the
Mhm.
bison and Yellowstone. We want the birds in our backyard. We want hummingbirds. We want all of those things, and we certainly do not want these catastrophes that are happening. So it's become this political agenda. So I want to talk about it without it being a political agenda. because it's not going to get us anywhere talking about it being a political
Right.
agenda, but it's
Right.
about human life. No matter how
Hmm.
we look at it, we talk about nature and the environment, the monarch butterflies, the bees, all of that. But if those go away, we go away. And so I
Right.
want to bring it home to people. And I think your first book, it was such a very precious call. And
Hmm.
but
Yeah.
then
In
it's
Lover of
like, all right, y'all, I'm tired of being sweet about it.
Well, Love Earth Now was my it's a collection of stories of my own efforts to try to
Yeah.
to get myself to care and to be active and and prioritize the self-care as well as the work. And so it was about the discovery of, just how to integrate it into my everyday life, making small changes and believing that they matter, because it's easy to get overwhelmed and feel hopeless. And
Oh,
so
and
I
you
had
gave us
to,
such great lessons too, like thoughts, like, hey, okay, stop and think about this.
right.
What can we do? It was
Mhm.
yeah, you made it really, actionable. And I think your next book is about that too, right? Is
Well,
actionable.
so Love Right Now was really a personal journey, and this book, yes, it is. It's madness. So it's
But it is
more about
madness.
my frustration that we aren't doing more, and worry that we aren't doing more. But in this book, I include at the end of each chapter a showcase of someone, a group, an organization that is doing something about that topic. Because what I realized is, even though I'm not doing something about XYZ, there are a lot of people in the world who already are. And I don't need to start from scratch and figure out what can I do about it with my limited resources, my limited knowledge and time. How about joining forces with people who are already active and already have a plan and have the tools and have the connections and the marching orders? And it's just so much easier to insert myself into an existing organization. It's like I say, it's like trying to think about baking a cake for the first time if you've never done it and you've never been a cook, and it seems like a lot to do. And then you discover there's a thing called a boxed cake mix. With all due respect to actual chefs, I mean, there's this boxed cakes mix. It's got the proportions already there. The most of the ingredients are mixed up. You have to add your own little piece to it to make the cake. But you've got a starting point, and that's what I feel about these organizations who are doing such good work already. If your particular issue is clean water, go find somebody who's already doing something about that and figure out how to bring your own gifts and abilities to what they're doing.
Mm, I 100% agree. Because at one point, kind of, especially being on the podcasting side, I mean, this year is 18 years of this, and we've been doing the magazine work for over 28 years in this country and before that. And everything in my life from when I was raised is about the environment and nature and wildlife.
Mm.
And I've done everything from walking the streets as a penguin to get donations for an oceanarium to, you know,
Yeah,
losing
I
my mind, literally. And that's where I got to this one point. And then I was like attacking every little thing to the point of anytime someone was doing something, I'm like, no. And who was I?
right.
I'm not God. I'm not, who am I to tell you? I'm not your boss. I'm not, and I'm out of line actually,
Mhm.
you know, and people make changes when they want to, and they need
Exactly.
to take on what, like you said, if this is your cause, do it. And I had this really rough lesson one day, and I remember talking to someone about an issue, and they very politely and nicely said, Lisa, do you not realize you're already doing it by having this podcast and doing what you're doing
Mm.
in the media? Like, can
Right,
you just focus on that and let the people who do the marches and the people who run the nonprofits do that? And I remember
right.
standing outside and wearing, it was winter, but I went outside and this cold wind just went around me like, wake up, girl. Like it was a weird, like spiritually weird, like,
Right.
um, I got this chill, and it wasn't just the weather. It was in Arizona. It was really not that cold. But I remember going, oh my God, I'm fighting the wrong fight. I'm fighting the wrong way. And I don't mean to fight the wrong way. And we don't have time. And so I just, went, oh, okay. well, let me just promote all that. And that's what Nancy's always said, like, hey, there's a group, you care about the Smoky Mountains. There's a national park group that protects and helps the Smoky Mountains National Park. So do that,
No one's mind, I don't think, has been changed for the good by blaming or shaming. I
No.
have people, I'll go out to dinner with people and they will, be using a plastic straw or something and they're like apologizing to me, sorry, sorry, sorry. I'm like, it's not me. It's not me you have to think about. Think about what's important to you, what you value, and live your life accordingly. I mean, that seems so obvious to say, and yet I think there are some trends in environmentalism of people, liking to call out those who are, making choices that they don't see as environmental. And I don't think that's conducive to the cause. And I have a chapter in the book about this actually. So, but I think even just
Well,
like
I came clean here now. See,
yeah, yeah, yeah,
I went to confession with you.
yeah.
So, well, no, it wasn't so much blaming. It was um trying
Or
to
just
like
calling people out. Yeah.
it's not necessarily calling it out, just going, did you
Mhm.
know this? Like you're doing this, and did you
Oh,
know
I see.
that?
Okay,
Yeah,
yeah.
yeah, yeah. It wasn't more like, hey, you're doing like someone had a straw
Oh,
that
you
sort of thing.
shouldn't do that. You shouldn't do that.
No, no, the word shouldn't. A friend of ours, Shelly, wasn't on show cells. Like the word should. Who are you to use that word? You
Yeah,
know,
no.
it's not a good word. But it is really about making choices and what we can do because I think we get really part of the frustration is feeling like nothing's moving. But if you see
Mhm.
something change, like if you see a native plant that you plant and it takes a little time for them take take to the earth and grow in your garden if you plant it, right? And
Mhm.
then suddenly one day the flowers come out and here comes the butterflies. All that time that you're waiting for that to happen, and God, if it dies, oh no, no native plants work, right? So
Right.
plant more than one, by the way. Just saying. But when it happens, is that not joyous?
Yes, absolutely.
That one little
Absolutely.
movement. I mean, that's the one thing. It's like if everybody planted another tree, climate change would really be on its way to being mitigated. Just trees. Just there's all these
Yeah.
ways, and everybody has like this is the way. And I think it's all these little ones. I don't know. You wrote the book on it.
Yeah, again, I think for me, it's really important for people to check in with their own hearts and know
Mm,
what they what's really valuable and what's worrying and concerning and what you love. As you said, if you love your native plants and you're going to care for them and cherish them, do that. If you're not a gardener and that's just not your thing, I'm not going to be the one saying everyone should plant native plants. I feel that I, it's just most important. I feel like social media has done this to us where we are even more, I think it's human nature, but even more hyper aware of how this looks to other people, how I'm living my life. How does this look to other people? And what do other people have to say about this? And it's really important to me to come back to what do I care about? Because if I really care about something, then I'm going to be more than happy to invest the time and the energy in taking care of that or contributing to that, as opposed to, oh, I feel guilty. Everyone says this, I shouldn't do this, so I have to give it up. That's probably not going to be a sustainable thing. And it's not coming from a place of, what's in your heart and being true to yourself.
mm. And if you care about certain things, I love like how you say if it's the clean water, then maybe you do that, and that gets away from let me go to parks, national parks, because I can really speak on that, right? So we've done national park work my whole life. But on our Love Your Parks tour and doing interviews with organizations, it's like, please don't get political about it because every stat, poll, fact check kind of data, when people look at who cares about parks, it doesn't matter what political party you're in. We all want Yellowstone. We all want Yosemite. We all
Sure.
want the Smoky Mountains. We all want dry tortugas in the Everglades. We all want that, right? We all want to
Mm.
take our kids there. So they have that. So they came back with stats that it is completely a bipartisan thing, which means we're all caring about nature, history, the environment so that it stays there. Then here comes the steps, and then it gets wonky. But if we stick to the caring part,
Yes,
what you just said, so if my thing is parks, I'm going to do park stuff. Now,
absolutely.
if somebody, like you said, I'm a native plant, I'm going to go here. If we all did that one thing that we care about, and I kind of want to just say ditch the politics. Am I allowed to say that? I just
Yes,
kind of feel like we need
absolutely.
to move forward. I feel like politics is, and I'm just saying politics, again, not taking sides on anything. We are 100% like, you know, independent. And if we could get that aside, I mean, I don't know if that's reality based, but kind of my
Well,
altruistic thing.
for people who are politicals, who are into politics, this is their
That's
passion. This
their
is what they
way. Oh,
do.
so you
They
like
do
what
it.
you're saying. So that's their thing.
Absolutely. Go do that.
Ah,
And
good point.
but I and I know it's tempting, especially with changes in administration, to say, well, it's hopeless now because this administration thinks differently than I do. So no, I say that your heart, the stirrings of your heart and your soul remain the same, no matter who's in office, no matter what political party is in
You still have
power.
a voice.
What
Hmm.
what you are called to do, what you're passionate about, what you want to leave behind for your children or your nieces or your ancestors, your legacy, that doesn't change when someone in the political office changes.
What about the grassroots organizations? I know that this new book, you've got a part on that, and you and I even talked while you were writing it. Madness on the Brink of Eco-Apocalypse, and I love that you even use that term, eco-apocalypse, because we keep forgetting that part of it. And the the byline of it is furious facts, dark humor, which we all love, and SOS calls to action. So that's a full title. But I know that looking at grassroots organizations, that was something important to you, right?
Yeah, absolutely. I feature all kinds of organizations, from uh, national organizations that have branches all over the country, all over the world, to places that have just sprouted up and are very specific to a local community, and to individuals who are, just working with their neighbors. There's no perfect criteria for who you might want to band forces with, but who's in your community, who's doing something about, and who do you respect?
Mm,
Are they go on to, if it's a nonprofit, go on to Charity Watch or something and see, are they really doing the work
mm,
that they say they're doing, that kind of thing. Do your research,
mm-hmm.
and find your people.
Yeah, and doesn't that help to find your people
Hmm. Yes, because
emotionally? Yeah.
because we all have highs and lows, and times when I think, this is pointless, there's no point in doing this, and if I'm in a community of people who are doing something, who we can take turns, we can lift each other up, and we can cover the gaps when I just need to take a break and I can't think about this right now.
And you celebrate those small successes like, oh, there's suddenly a flower on this native plant and the butterfly finally comes.
Yeah.
You know,
Yeah.
it's like those small successes that we may miss. And the group is there to acknowledge all of that. When you're
Hmm.
working together, that maybe maybe it's a native planting in a park or something, right? See, I keep
Right.
going there. So where my mind is, right? But
Yes.
you may not be there volunteering that day, but another volunteer will take a photo and everybody can go, oh my gosh, our work paid off.
Yes.
Here's the
Absolutely.
beginning of success. And then that
Mhm.
breeds success and the ripple effect. I do believe, you know, in communities and all these interviews we've done all these years, that it's really important that we be in touch with our immediate surroundings. Have you found that with the research you've done in both books?
Mm. But that is super important to me. I can't tell you. I mean, and that's woven into all my stories, is, my place, even from the walk I make in the morning down the street, my neighbors' yards, and seeing what they're growing and blooming, to, going to national parks on vacation. But I think it's really important to be connected to your local community. I'm actually on the board of a local nonprofit that plants trees primarily, and they also do some work with biodiversity and habitat restoration, but they're a big tree planting organization, Northeast Trees. And they train, what really draws to me is that they not only do the work, but they train young people from the local communities, and they predominantly work in underserved, nature poor communities, urban communities. They hire and train local people from the local communities to do the work, and to hear them, I mean, their eyes just are opened to the nature that has been in their community all the time, and to see them, the awakening of that connection to their natural communities, even the urban environment where there's maybe a park or a tree here and there, but to have that, to see them awaken to that connection, that they are a person in a place with nature, is so rewarding. And that's really important to me, is not just for myself, but to support that work in helping others, especially young people who are just coming into this situation and finding that deep connection with nature, because it can be a source of solace and restoration and connection to, even if the people in your life are not doing what you want them to do, you could go out in a community of trees and a green space and feel that connection if you are tapped into that.
And also by working with people like that, there's these beautiful moments, right, where you see positive change, but then you can also collaborate on the humor of stuff that the dark humor part. I'm always drawn to that because we all have that inner dark humor, I believe, and some of us a little bit. Just, it depends on what level you want to let it out of the bag.
It's really important. I mean, dark humor has been something that people in difficult situations throughout the ages have employed, from slavery on, and it's just so vital to me to help process the heavy stuff. Is if you can find something to laugh about, even gallows humor, dark humor, and it just lifts the mood. It lifts the level of tension and anxiety.
I think it changes our brains.
It changes. I think so too.
Yeah,
It changes.
When we went through the evacuations, we were actually on our way home, and then we had to re-evacuate. And so this was what was funny, because the gas stations were finally open, and we were going from a friend's place. Their house had burned, but their resort was there. So we were all living in the resort, and we were laying. So, I mean, it was such a crazy year and a half. And so we were like, oh, the electricity's back on here. So now we can get gas again, which is a big deal because people forget, like, how does gas, get pumped in? So we went, and the gas station was open. We all were waiting in lines, but it's like a little mountain town, right? And then we looked, he's like, oh, the fridge is working and they have beer. So we had a friend with us, a young guy, just kind of, just like in his 20s. And we're like, there's beer. Let's get a 6-pack of beer, because he was going to help us unload our stuff back into the house, the truck we had. And we get in and we start driving, and our place is on fire, the neighborhood. And the cops from LA had come in. They didn't, sorry, it's not political, but they did not know our terrain. And I could see, like, basically the mountain right behind our house was on fire, which you couldn't tell if it was like really your backyard, or it could be, 50 miles away as a crow flies. And this lady's like, no, no. And I'm like, oh, hell no, I'm going. You can shoot me. I'm going. We get there. And indeed, the fire was right there. And we all got out of the truck, and we had a peacock live on our property. We were right outside William Hisey County Park, and the deer used to come into our yard when everybody came camping. They would hang out in our yard. We had mountain lions mate on our patio. We had wild turkeys. They would come peck on the windows for seed in the winter. But we had a peacock that was there when we moved in. This peacock lived in the oak tree, in this massive live oak tree. And I mean, this was, if I think back to one of the places of paradise that we lived in, this was it. This beautiful
It
A-frame.
sounds like it.
And we get down the driveway, and you're down the driveway because the driveway like this to get down to it. And the three of us, Nancy, myself, and our friend Josh, we get out and we look and we're like, holy hell, this is it. So we had so many of this is it moments. So we went to hose the house down, and everybody's like, it doesn't work, but actually that has actually saved people's homes back in from another fire a friend of mine did that helped him. But we got out of the truck and we all looked at the beer, and we took the beer, we put it on the hood of the truck, and we're just like, oh hell, because we'd been through so many evacuations so fast. And we all opened up a beer. I don't know, we did a beer commercial and stood there going, take time for a cool one. When there's a wildfire at your house, what do?
Yeah.
You drink a beer. And it was absolutely insane because we were, the house did get saved. But eventually we did actually have to move and everything from everything. But then we moved our stuff that we were trying to save in a friend's place, and her house burned, which sucked with our stuff in it. But anyway, it was just one of those, it was a really terrible time. And I'm sure this happened with other people during that evacuation, that kind of humor,
Mm-hmm.
because we needed to have that release because it was just too much. It was too many people, too much. And we were all just helping each other. And it was nonstop. Like our friend's house burned down. It was the beginning of these fires. And I went and got clothing donations and started to open up bags of clothing from the church. And somebody had put a sanitary napkin inside there, and it was stuck to a cummerbund for a tuxedo. Who needs this?
Yeah.
So, we had to find humor. We did modeling shows like, with all these clothes that were donated that no one should have donated.
Yeah. Yeah.
So,
Right.
does that count in dark humor?
Absolutely. Yes.
It's like it would sound sick to everybody, but when you're going through it, if you don't let go, like I'm just using the fire thing because of what's happening now, but it's the same in all of it.
Mm-hmm. And I employ it to I think it helps forge connections in a way that preaching doesn't. But if you can, and that's what I attempt to do a lot in this book, is to use my own snarky sort of humor as a way to point things out, as opposed to pointing fingers, but saying, if I can make a joke about, look how crazy this sounds and is, then I'm hoping that that's more, people are more receptive to getting information, hard information that sometimes may challenge what you've thought before. I think comes in better with some good dark humor.
Good dark humor
Not
is good.
or dark chocolate, either one. I just started to go there.
And as you said, I went to pumpernickel bread for some reason.
Yeah.
I have no idea. A good dark rye,
Yeah, yeah. So,
Well, because it's the strong stuff,
yeah, yeah.
Some of us go to amber liquids. I don't know. I just have a little on the dark side of that kind of, yeah, I think, yeah,
But I mean, think
because
about the last time
also,
you went to a comedy club and someone starts in on a topic and you're like, I'm closed off to this. I am not going to laugh. And then they get you with a zinger and you find yourself laughing at it. And it's like, okay, I can relax about this a little bit. And I'm just here to have fun. Remember that. So
the point of the comedy, and like what comedy, comics are getting attacked all the time. And actually, half of the time you listen, they're just actually trying to get you to see something. They're actually on your side. They're sensitive beings. Comedians are sensitive, smart beings. I often wish the White House was run by them, no matter who's in office. I'm just like, we may as well, at this you know, so it's I love comedians, and as we travel, we're like, you have to have your own Netflix and Hulu accounts just because you don't, because we're always, we pet sit so we're in someone's home, so we can't let anybody see what we watch because they think, oh my gosh, Lisa and Nancy, they're so sweet to our animals. How do they watch this? Like, dudes,
That's so
there's
funny.
no
I never
way in
thought about that.
hell we're gonna keep going and doing what we do without laughter. Are you kidding
Right,
me?
right. Yeah,
I know they say this, but I don't care. I need to laugh, you know.
yeah. I
We
even
all
took some. I'm a major introvert, and I even took some stand-up comedy classes and did
awesome.
some public stand-up comedy sets just to partly get over that terror, but also to explore using more comedy in messaging. And I still am not never going to be a stand-up comic per se, but I'm glad to have that experience because it does help open some avenues for conversation in a way that just throwing facts at people. I mean, I'm a big data nerd. I want to know that things have been researched. I don't like, just passing off memes of someone says something and then I don't know if that's true. I need I need a footnote
Yeah,
for my memes. But, so, I do use a lot of facts that I have researched in the book just because I that's important to me that things are verifiable. But at the same time,
agree.
I know that just spouting dry facts at people, I don't think that's ever changed anybody's mind about anything.
And the younger generation, they need to know that we take what's going on, climate change, seriously, but we
Hmm.
also don't need it to make it like you're going to die.
Right, right. That
That's
it's
the thing, too. The emotions of how we all communicate together. It's important. And I think more importantly, they want to know that we're on their side to fix it.
mhm,
And I
mhm,
don't think
mhm,
we have time to actually point fingers.
right.
I I actually think
No,
we just need to get our butts,
but that's
off the
exactly the
chair.
message of this book. Right.
Yeah.
That's exactly right.
Well, what got you into writing books to do it? I mean, it's kind of like that, friend of mine after a show, he says, Lisa, you guys do podcasts. That's what you do. Go do that. That's how you fix things. Is that kind of what happened to you at some point where this is, I'm going to
Well,
write books?
yeah, right. No, writing was just always my therapeutic outlet, journaling. And then I started, a mommy blog when my kids were little as a way to help me process all the new feelings there and the new situations. And it just really grew out of my own therapy. And in fact, if you read my books, you'll probably see that. You, you'll get the sense of that this is me working through this stuff alongside you, the reader.
Yeah. Well, I think that's what is identifiable for people.
Mm,
We all
I
have
hope
to work through stuff,
right,
you know?
right, right. Yeah, I,
Now,
I agree. I'm much more inclined to listen to somebody who's clearly working through things themselves than someone who says, I already know, and I'm going to tell you. And I'm immediately like, no, you don't.
yeah, exactly. We don't like the know-it-alls.
No, I
Didn't when
don't.
we all had one in school, didn't we?
Yeah. Yeah, well, I'm saying, just any social media page you pick up, you will find
The know-it-all.
immediate examples.
Well, yeah, I think that word should. I think Shelley's kind of right about this. That
Yeah,
word
no,
should is,
that's banned.
yeah, don't do this, do that. And I'm the other thing on social media is all these people doing videos and using their pointy finger to do this, do that. And I want to
Right.
take their finger, and I don't want to say anything else, but I do want to take that finger and
Understood.
take it somewhere else. It needs
Yes.
to go to a different place.
Place.
There's
Yes.
cubby holes for those. Um, that finger, this thing, and
Right.
it's like everybody's now formulated to the same voice, going da 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 da, and I'm like, oh, I can't listen to you. No, I can't do. Don't the finger.
Right. Yeah.
I
Yeah.
got a good finger, but it it's it'll do one big point. It's not gonna. But so when we look at the book now, the madness on the brink of apocalypse, um, it's really kicking butt. It just came out in November, and
Yeah.
you're an award winner with the last one, Love Earth Now, Silver Nautilus. So now this one's kicking butt too. You feeling good?
It really seems to be resonating and striking a chord with people. Yes.
Yeah.
It's so funny. In the very beginning, I include a quote from the movie Network. It's a 1976 movie, so younger people may not be aware of it, but it's quite a
It's a
classic film
fantastic movie. Everyone should watch it.
about media and news reporting, and the newscaster kind of loses it and says, and says, I don't know what to tell you, but I want you to be mad. I want you to go to your window and stick your head out the window and say, I'm mad as hell. I'm not going to take it anymore. And I include that as the opening to my book. And guess what? The local movie theater down the street, which shows a lot of classic films, showed the movie Network last night, and I got to go into the theater and show that with people, and it was so therapeutic.
Oh my gosh, that's fantastic.
So what
That's
a
amazing.
coincidence. So talk about resonating. I think it does, because they were showing that film, because it does. I mean, as old as it is, and it's focused on television broadcast news, the themes are just so relevant to now. I highly recommend checking out the movie if you haven't seen it or haven't seen it recently.
Absolutely. Now, listen, next time you come back on the show, let's talk trees.
Okay. Yes.
I think that's
I'm a
going to
big
be necessary.
Yes, I'm a big fan.
Yeah, I'm a big fan too. In fact, American Forest, if you go to treeequity.org and check out your tree equity, what's your
Okay.
score? Yeah, I
Okay.
love what they do because what we found is, the eco-apocalypse is also about how it's going to affect communities that are underserved
Hmm.
and ignored. And
Yes.
trees get planted if you've got the money and the class and the stature, and then the rest of you, sorry, you don't get any trees. You don't get the parks.
Right.
And so when we first started our tour, we're doing national parks and all of that. Then we realized every park matters, and now we'll document even a small, tiny pocket park,
Mhm.
that kind of thing. And then we go, where are the parks? And I'm going to tell you, sometimes some things come up on a Google map as a park, and it is a piece of grass in the middle of an impoverished area. And I go, okay, but there's no trees. Why is that? You're in the middle of Texas, y'all. Seriously. And it was Texas that was one of the ones that, it's not the only place. And you can see that we need to do things. And
Yeah.
trees can be like, I really believe in that being a something that can save us in
Hmm.
climate change
Hmm.
and done correctly, obviously, because of wildfires, etc. Um,
That's exactly why I support Northeast Trees of Los Angeles. We plant trees in densely urban areas where have historically been lacking.
mm,
And it's good not only, for beauty and shade. The inner cities are hotter places and getting hotter, and trees cool things down. They process pollutants because guess what? Many of those neighborhoods are located next to the oil refineries and the industry plants, and so they help clear the air, especially in smoggy Los Angeles. It's so important. They provide, homes and sustenance for the flora and the fauna that we want to see in our communities. And so it's really important to think of urban trees as much as forests, I think.
yeah, I mean, even where we are today, I went out to get the mail and I could hear an owl hoot in the trees, and I
Mhm.
went, and every time we're here, I go, "Where's the owl?" And the owl's there, and I'm like, "That's amazing, isn't it?" To be
Yeah.
able to have that, and so many people do not have the owl in the backyard.
Hmm. Hmm.
And don't we want the owl? Come on, it's
I do.
cool. I want the owl. So I love that. So please, let's do something on that because I know that's going to be necessary, especially moving forward. We'll do something on the shows with that. But thank you, Cheryl. Good to have you back on the show, and congratulations on another successful book, getting the message out, doing your part. And man, power to you. Are you going to do another one? She's like, yo, come on, man. I'm going through a wildfire. Don't need another thing.
I always tell people it's like, you know, when you have a baby and people immediately come up and say, "Are you going to have another one?" It's like, no, wait, no, can we just not celebrate? I had a baby. Yeah, actually, I never think that I am going to write a book. It's just when the writing piles up too high, then it's like I slap a cover on it.
Oh, there you go. Well, no, but I think, because you're always thinking about it. It's definitely on your
But
mind.
there is another thought
Ah,
already brewing, so I will say that.
I
Thank you
love
so
it. I love
much.
it. It's
It's always
always
a
good to
pleasure
have
to
you
talk to
on the
you.
show. Everyone,
Yeah.
CherylLeutjen.com. It's LEUTJEN, CherylLeutjen.com. And the link is in the episode notes. She's also on Instagram under Love Earth Now. Such a pleasure to have you back on, and we look forward to next time. And
Thank
next
you
time
for
we'll have
listening
Clear
to
Big Blend Radio's Nature
Yes,
Connection show.
please.
Follow us at
Thank you.
bigblendradio.com and keep up with Margot at margotcarrera.etsy.com.